Good morning. My name is Kathleen, and it is my joy and my honor to walk with you through this morning's meditation. So take slow, intentional, deliberate breaths for just a moment. I invite you to close your eyes if you are comfortable, or focus with a soft gaze that will act as an anchor to steady your mind. Rest in the gentle grace and moments of shared prayer and meditation with these words. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Now slowly return to this place, this time, this space, and gently open your eyes to focus. Be still and know that I am God, and so it is. Namaste.
Hey, listen, I wanted to mention we're having a memorial service for Chris and our beloved Rita, June the 12th at 1 p.m. here in the sanctuary. And you're certainly welcome to attend as we honor the life of a precious, beautiful, extraordinary woman. And thanks also for those that were able to make the Pride Palooza outreach yesterday. We had a great day, especially want to recognize Ricky Hershey, who organized the event and led us in it. Mackenzie Peterson, who baked some fabulous cookies that I had to abstain from, so our people that passed them by could eat them. One kid ate most of them. Back again. Mackenzie also made this cool poster. It was a huge hit. It had on it, "Are you ready to get the hell out of church? Visit Unity." I thought it was so cool. It was huge. Everybody loved it. Went over real big. Larry McCoy helped transport supplies and transport us and helped us under the tent. And Miss Elle Hughes, one of our newest members, was there. And we just had a great time, made a lot of great contacts and reaching out to people. Our biggest draw was the ice water. We had, chilled bottles of water, and I'd say, "Hey, you thirsty? You want water?" And when I would lure them in with that, I would pounce upon them, you see. And it worked great. Worked great. But we had a great time, and thank you for those who participated. We want to do that every year. Heard about a fella who was looking for work without luck for many weeks. He decided to take a break and visit the zoo. While he was at the zoo, he asked the zookeeper if they had any openings there. The zookeeper motioned the man over to a tree and whispered, "Our gorilla just died last night, and we're expecting a group of children to come this afternoon. They'll be very disappointed if they don't get to see a gorilla. If you'd be willing to wear a gorilla suit and swing around the cage, I'll pay you $10 an hour." The man thought about the children, thought about the money, and said, "Yes, I will do it." So he got into the gorilla suit and entered the gorilla cage. Just then the children began to file by. The man decided he was going to give them a show. He started swinging on the tire, swinging and swinging higher and faster. He swung so high he landed into the next cage, which happened to be the lion's cage. Immediately, the man in the gorilla suit began to scream and rattle the cage. "Let me out, get me out of here." The children also began to scream as the lion slowly approached the gorilla. When the man in the gorilla suit thought all was lost, the lion said, "Mister, you better shut up before we both lose our jobs." Couldn't be much of a zoo anyway. The animals keep dying, right? But you didn't come here this morning to hear about fake gorillas and fake lions. You came to hear about something real. You came to hear about camels. We'll talk this morning about the joy of watering camels, the first hump. We'll do the second hump next week. But today we're going to look at the first hump on the joy of watering camels. Permit me to read from the book of Genesis, chapter 24. Now Abraham was old, advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who was in charge of all that he owned, "Please place your hand under my thigh." That's actually a euphemism. It was to make the passage G-rated. He actually said, "Put your hand under my procreative organ." This was a way of swearing an oath based on those that will descend from me. You swear this oath. We don't do that so much anymore. But anyway, he had him swear this oath. "Place your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live. But you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac." In other words, the local girls weren't good enough for Abraham or good enough for his son. He said, "I want you to go back where I came from, find a suitable wife for Isaac." Now, can I get a volunteer from the audience, please? No? Oh, thank you. Have you got a pen and a piece of paper handy? Wonderful. I need you to make a tick mark every time you hear the word camel or camels, if you would, please. Thank you. Ready? I'm going to read a significant portion to you today. I normally just shoot you a scripture here, a scripture there, or tell you the story. But I really need to read this today for reasons that will become apparent. All right, ready? Then the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master and went out with a variety of good things of his master's in his hand. He set out and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water. When it was evening, the time when women go out to draw water, and he said, Lord God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I'm standing by the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now may it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who answers, drink, and I will water your camels also. May she be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know you have shown kindness to my master. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please let me drink a little water from your jar. And she said, drink, my lord. And she quickly lowered her jar to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she'd finished giving him a drink, she said, I'll also draw water for your camels until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran back to the well to draw. And she drew for all his camels. Meanwhile, the man was taking a close look at her in silence to find out whether the Lord had made his journey successful or not. I don't know, where else would you need to go after that, right? When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels in gold. And he said, whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room for us to stay overnight at your father's house? This is what the man said to me. He went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. And he said, come in, blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside, since I have prepared the house and a place for your camels? So the man entered the house. And Laban unloaded the camels, and he gave straw and feed to the camels, and water to wash the feet and the feet of the men who were with him. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, so that he's become rich, and he's given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, and servants, and? Yes. Please let me drink a little water from your jar, she says to me. You drink, and I will draw water for your camels also. So let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder, went down to the spring and drew water. And I said to her, please let me drink. She quickly lowered her jar from her shoulder and said, drink, and I will water your camels also. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. He was telling this story again. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. And the servant brought out articles of silver and articles of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and her mother. Now they called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? She said, I will go. And then Rebekah got up with her female attendants, and they mounted and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and departed. Volunteer, how many times were camels referenced in that passage, please? Very good, 16 times. It's about the camels. Thank you so much, by the way. See, it's about the camels. So I said, it's about a love story with Isaac and Rebekah. Yeah, whatever. It's about the camels, man. That's what this is about. And we want to focus on the camels today. It's about them. It's about this extraordinary creature called the ship of the desert. It's a fascinating creature. Some say a camel is a horse built by a committee, but that's undermining the value of the camel. The camel's so much more than that. For instance, their feet, just starting with the feet, their toes spread apart on the sand, and they had webbing between them. They're able to glide on the sand like walking, down the street, on a pleasant day. It's nothing to them. They just glide on the sand. They have a third eyelid to protect them from sandstorms. A third eyelid. They have nostrils they can close off during a sandstorm. If there's ever a critter that was designed for that harsh environment where most other animals would die, it's the extraordinary camel. Their coats are thick and protect them from the brutal sun. Don't get me started on the humps. Okay, you got it. The humps. There's a common myth that a camel stores water in its hump. This is actually not the case. But the humps are in fact reservoirs of fatty tissue, which can be used as a reserve source of calories, not water. When this tissue is metabolized, it yields a greater mass of water than that of the fat processed. This is because fat metabolization converts oxygen into water as part of producing energy. Who does this but them? Camels have a series of physiological adaptations that allow them to withstand long periods of time without any external source of water. The dromedary camel can drink as seldom as once every 10 days, even under very hot conditions, and can lose up to 30% of its body mass due to dehydration. Now get this, they can drink as much as 30 gallons at a time. 30 gallons for one critter. No wonder they don't need it for forever. This is stored, now this is not stored in the hump. Get out of that. That ain't where it's stored. It's stored in their bloodstream. All right, I'm helping you understand here. Now, unlike other mammals, camels' red blood cells are oval rather than circular in shape. This facilitates the flow of red blood cells during dehydration and makes them better at withstanding high osmotic variation without rupturing when they drink, again, large amounts of water. They're able to withstand changes in body temperature and water consumption that would kill most other mammals. Their temperature ranges from 93 degrees Fahrenheit at dawn, steadily increases to 104 degrees Fahrenheit by sunset, before they cool off at night again. In general, to compare between camels and other livestock, camels lose only 1.3 liters of fluid intake every day, while other livestock lose 20 to 40 liters per day. Amazing. Maintaining the brain temperature within certain limits is critical for animals. To assist this, camels have a complex of arteries and veins lying very close to each other, which utilizes countercurrent blood flow to cool blood flowing to the brain. Camels rarely sweat, even when ambient temperatures reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Any sweat that does occur evaporates at the skin level rather than at the surface of their coat. The heat of vaporization, therefore, comes from body heat rather than ambient heat. Camels can withstand losing 25% of their body weight in water, whereas most other mammals can withstand only about 12 to 14% dehydration before cardiac failure would result. These are amazing animals, aren't they? Extraordinary, mind-boggling what they can do. Unity founder Charles Fillmore referred to them in the Revealing Word. He said, the metaphysical meaning of camel, in individual consciousness, the camel is a symbol of power, endurance, strength, and patient perseverance. And so they are. They're good. The problem is they're good and they know they're good. And this gives them an attitude. I've seen it. There are times people will water and feed them and they'll spit at them or try to bite them. Why would they do that? It's because they have an attitude. Because nothing else can do what they can do. They're unique, they're aware of it, and they think they're better than everybody. They do. I've got a complicated relationship with camels. I do. Now, I love them, and yet I fear them. And they're devils, actually, is why I fear them. Because they have a bad attitude. I remember an experience I had with them at Tennessee Safari. This farmer had bought a bunch of exotic animals. He had zebras and antelope. He had one giraffe and some camels, and he'd put them out on his ground. You could drive around, and he'd sell you a bucket of feed, these food pellets, and you could feed them. And so I had my bucket, and I got in the camel line. And I was watching because the camel line was very popular, understandably. They know they're good. They know people want to see them. And he was standing there, and I noticed I was watching him, and he was a clever and evil person because the person would put out their bucket, big bucket of food. The camel would latch onto it with its teeth, take it out of their hand, hold it up, and pour all of the food down its greedy gullet and give it back an empty bucket. So, all right, I know your game. So when I got there, I held onto my bucket like, it's for dear life, man. He was never getting in my bucket. So you may have part of it, you may not have it all. And so he got part of it and sneered at me as I drove away. But they got an attitude, they do, and that's understandable because they are good and they are extraordinary. But I got to thinking how camels metaphysically typify all of our struggles. Because, I mean, all of us develop camels we have to water. Various experiences in our life. Rebecca was an extraordinary woman in that she was watering more than one camel, at least two, probably more like 5 or 6, with 30 gallons of water each required, and no water hoses in that day. You had to go to the well and draw it. Hopefully she had some help, because she was a busy girl. All the while, these critters are spitting and biting at her, and she's watering them and just hanging in there with it. And I got to thinking about how that's so often what life is about, isn't it? Watering camels. Life is about experiences that we have in various phases of life, because how many know ultimately the camel is a conveyance to transport us to somewhere we want to be. And so it is required of us to water that sucker. And at times it can be very unpleasant in every aspect of life. We start out, we go to school. And we have good experience in school. We also experience bullies and mean and nasty teachers. And we think, is this worth it? We got to water that. We got to water that. We got to apply ourselves to that and recognize its value is going to be seen on down the road. When we start in the work world, in our careers, we deal with mean and idiotic bosses. We deal with conniving coworkers. And we think, is it worth watering this camel? Is this going to get me where I want to be? In our relationships, we meet that special someone. And at some point we discover they're a jerk. And we wonder, is this relationship worth watering? Is this camel going to take me where I want to be ultimately in my life? Can I see myself with this camel the rest of my life? Is it worth watering? We all have to assess that in various stages of life. Isn't that true? Is this camel worth watering? Is it going to get me where I want to be? And the church, the same way. We have wonderful experiences in church, and at times, however, the church is full of people. Isn't that right? I heard a minister say, you know, I'd be a great pastor if it wasn't for people. Of course you would. But it's all about people. And where you have people, you have problems. Isn't that true? Somebody said people and problems go together like water and wet. That's right, isn't it? And it's all of us. All of us got them. But we all learn to deal with them and hopefully get better. Isn't that true? I remember we got to assess, though, is what you're struggling to water going to carry you where you want to go? We all have to wonder about that. I remember the first real church I ever had was the minister of in Western Kentucky. I call it the first real, and the others were play ones because they were in my local area and they were practice runs. But this was the real deal. I was moving somewhere else with my family, away from people that I knew, and it was just, all right, it's real now, man. It's getting real. And so the church was like 20 very unhappy people that had this terrible minister before me involved in a sexual scandal, and he just messed them up, and they were all sad, and I'm supposed to help them. And so I remember I showed up one Sunday morning, and there was a lady standing outside on the sidewalk, and I greeted her, good morning. She went, she just starts crying. What did I say? And then I walk in, there's another lady standing there, and I give her a cheery, good morning. She I thought, what am I doing? I think, I can't do this. I got to go back home. Because everybody seems so unhappy, and I'm supposed to help them. But I decided I had to assess there, is this camel worth watering? Is this getting me where I want to go in my life? Is this going to transport me into the next phase of development of my life and consciousness? I had to ask that question many times early on. And how many know oftentimes the watering you do for those camels will be with your tears? Because I watered with my tears when nobody was looking, many occasions. But ultimately that congregation became healthy and strong, became the second largest in town. We would have been the largest, but the Marian Baptist had like 100 years on us. So, they were a little bigger. But we became built a beautiful new facility, made a great impact, beautiful youth facility called 180. Just had a great impact, did some great things in the community. But before we got to that point, is this worth watering? This is killing me, man. But I decided that it was. And when you make that decision, when you're all in, we'll see it change. We'll see it turn around. And that camel you're watering today will become a conveyance tomorrow. But we have to ask that question. At times it can be a hard question to answer. Is this worth watering anymore? Do good things await me at the end of this watering? Like Rebecca, at the end of her journey, she got bracelets of gold and silver, and she ultimately met the love of her life. Good things happen, but she had to water those suckers first. How many know we got to water them? They just got to have water. They sometimes don't appreciate the water you give them. They'll spit at you. But you got to ask yourself, do good things await me when I water this? And secondly, don't miss this. It can be a good camel, but is it your camel? If it's not your camel, you don't want to be watering it. It's not worth the aggravation, all right? Hey, if this is not my camel, I'd rather some other poor bloke take care of it. We got to ask that, is this my camel to water? Is this relationship really healthy and good? Is it going to take me where I need to be? Is it good for both of us? I remember a lady that I knew, she met a man, and he started swatting her, whacking her, hurting her. She commented that occasionally he hits me. I said, occasionally? She said, yeah, but I give him reason to do it. I said, do you really? I said, do you really think there's any reason or excuse for that? I said, I'm telling you, girl, it ain't. She said, you sound like my mama. I said, listen to your mama. She's telling you right. That's not worth watering something like that. It can be a good camel, but is it your camel to water? Is it the relationship that's going to be healthy and strong and carry you further along in your life? Is it the career you really need to pursue? For those considering education, what camel's worth watering there? It can be good, but is it yours? And it's interesting, Rebecca, if you notice, this wasn't just an arranged marriage where she had no choice. Her family said, will you go with this man? Do you believe this is right? She said, I will. I will go. She was all in. And for the camel she was watering and spitting at her and so unpleasant became the camel she rode into the next phase of her life and met the love of her life and was blessed the rest of her days. And so we can experience that as well if we're willing to water that camel, if we know it's our camel to water, and we experience coming into a new dimension of our lives, a new place of development and strength and Christ consciousness. And that's a blessing when we find, we might not see that camel initially as a blessing, but it turns out to be. Isn't that true? So good things await us when we water that camel. And so that's hump number 1. Please tune in next week for hump number 2. Stand with me if you would. Let's make our affirmation in closing. Repeat after me if you'd be so kind. I love camels. I water the camel that is going where I want to go. I water it faithfully, lovingly, and wisely. I am going where good things await me. Oh, bless your hearts. Keep watering those camels. You got to love them. Thank you.